Samoham sarvabhuteshu name dveshosti na priyaha ye bhajanti tu mam bhaktya maite teshu chapyaham apiche suduracharo bhajate mam ananya bhak sadhureva samantavyaha samyak vyavasito hisaha. By mistake, by purva karma, he has gone into dushta achara. He has gone into bad company. So he has gone into bad habits. Originally he is my bhakta, just as it happened in the case of Ajamila. He was Madhava. Madhava, in the case of this one. Madhava was a great devotee, Tattvajnani and Virakta. He was very good. He was doing the service of his parents very eloquently, but one day, as a result of his purva karma, he fell prey to his kama, and he asks his wife to have course with him, and she denies, but ultimately the destiny wants him to go to the forest. Then he comes across a Chandala lady and gets attracted by her and starts living with her for several years. Then he realizes she dies, his children die, and he becomes Virakta. Then when he comes to the hill, he was going with the rishis, and they all come to Kapila Tirtha, and he sees them doing the Pitrayajna, Pitrakarya, and he also does it with his Maralu. Then there he is supposed to have omitted all his sins. It was supposed to have created Durgandha in all the three worlds. So that is the Kapila Tirtha and the foothill of Venkat. That's why it's known as Venkatadri. In Kali Yuga, it's called as Venkatadri.
Sir, Kapil Tirtha means this.
Yes, that's here only. Absolutely, yeah.
Oh, okay.
There all the rishis came, and Madhava, by repentance, was following the rishis, the trail of rishis. And by that time, the repentance has already burnt his sins. But here, all the sins, or when the entire body was purified by him taking it out in the form of vomiting. That is what the Venkatesha Mahatmya Purana says. And the Venkata, Vem Katati iti Venkataha. Vem is papam, both papa and ishtartha. It says Vem Katati. So it is it destroys the papas. So it destroyed the papa of Madhava, and to memorize or make that story become permanent, the Adri in Kali Yuga came to be called as Venkatadri. Otherwise, it was called as Seshadri, Vrishabhadri, Anjanadri. Several names were there in the different yugas, but for various stories that go with that, ultimately this Adri, where Venkatadri Parvata and Venkatesha Samodevo Nabhuto Nabhavishyati. So, there are so many stories which may appear to be concocted, but they have a messages to say, and only faithful will be able to realize the true messages of these stories. And here, even one apiche suduracharaha, duracharaha, suduracharaha, bhajate mam ananya bhak. If he has complete devotion in me, sadhureva samantavyaha. There is no prescription in our legal system to pardon a wrongdoer if he repents. I don't know whether there is any provision for wrongdoers. Of course, if they become approvers, they are pardoned, but approvers for their own benefit.
But Prayaschitta must be there. Prayaschitta.
Prayaschitta, yes.
That should be there.
Yeah, Prayaschitta, the repentance itself is Prayaschitta. Paschatapa itself is one form of Prayaschitta.
But doing some sort of rituals also.
Well, sometimes if it is not coming from your heart, Prayaschitta as a ritual is there. But there is nothing equal to Paschatapa as a Prayaschitta. Both the words mean the same thing, Paschat-tapa. That means becoming extremely miserable or agonized or upset after the event. And it should come from the heart, Paschat-tapa. Then Prayaschitta is to bring you back to the original frame of mind. Shipram bhavati dharmatma sashvat shantim nigacchati kaunteya pratijanihi name bhakta pranasyati. This is called as Bhakti Yoga Adhyaya. Here the importance and the greatness of Bhakti is mentioned. And again it is called as Rajavidya, Rajaguhya, because Bhakti is the most important ingredient for our Upasana. And as I said, in the society also, we need to have the environment of love, affection. That is missing today. The love and affection of parents and children, gurus and sishyas, husband and wife, officers and subordinates, and leaders and the led. We should have love and affection. So that love and affection out of respect for each other is missing. So we must have one more bhakti movement. In India, in Bharatadesha, bhakti movement started around the 11th and 12th century, and a number of Haridasas, even later it became intensified. That is because people had lost their spiritual foundations of life, and when the external onslaught, external faith was creating dislocation of the human life, the Alvas came, Haridasas came, then Annamacharya came in recent times, Tyagaraja came in the recent times, Purandradasa, Kanakadasa, and Mirabai, and then here Bhakti Pantha in the eastern part of India.
Sir, one thing is which I would like to put before you, we don't have these days, the life pattern, it has changed a lot. Previously, my great grandfather, and during those times, people had lot of leisure time to think about God, to think about their fellow human beings. But nowadays, the life, it has become so fast. People don't have any time for themselves, for others, for their parents, even for their children, and struggle for existence, it has gone to that extent. So people are forgetting, the human beings are forgetting that they are human beings.
No, they are forgetting God and they are forgetting themselves also. It's a very good question, reflecting what is happening around us. You have already stated the situation and the cause for the situation. We are in a strife-ridden, peaceless, happinessless, without happiness situation because of that excessive struggle, excessive craze, excessive pursuit of activity.
The competition is such, no, sir, these days.
No, personally, I feel it is an obsession, lust for money.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I am about to say.
That is one thing, sir. But another thing is they are forced to, for example, the small children, they get up early in the morning and sit in their school buses and then go there, and this kind of thing. Actually, personally, they may not like that much, but they are forced by their parents.
Why do you?
That is taxing them. That is personal feeling.
No,
my personal feeling is that the children are being taxed because
competition is such as
no.
Previously, it was not like that. People were so happy. Contentment was there so much in them.
You have given both the answer and the cause. So we like to have, as you said earlier, Mahatma Gandhi said there is so much for the need of, but not for the greed of everyone. So approach or the solution to it may appear to be extremely difficult because we have moved so much far muddled into this environment, as we say in Hindi, daldal mein phas gaye. That is, we are caught into the mud, a muddy situation. You want to come out, you are unable to come out. You still go down and down in the daldal. Daldal means, that is daldal, kitchen, both the same thing. So the solution is, you may say, difficult, but it is not impossible. It is only when you study do's and don'ts prescribed in our philosophy of life, of being contented, helping others, satisfaction, then caring for others, cooperation. Now already we are realizing that competition is not good for mankind, for human welfare. Already, in the case of, I am an economist, and globalization was being prescribed for us 20 years ago. I was a critic of it right from that time, that it will increase competition and therefore efficiency. See, competition is not the source for increasing efficiency, but it will destroy the smaller segments of the society, the small industries, cottage industries, small man in the world, in the society has been ruined. And without increasing his capability, you have asked him to compete with, it's almost, as I say many times, it is making a sumo wrestler of Japan to wrestle with a very weakling of the villages in India. So you are not increasing the capability of the village wrestlers, you ask him to wrestle with sumo wrestlers, saying that it will help you in the future. Competition will increase efficiency, but it is already proven to be wrong. and that was a wrong prescription based upon the vested interests of the multinationals of the Western world. They wanted to have access to our markets, to their technologies, to their capital, and to our system, weak governance, weak government, and so they wanted to have inroads into our system. I have done a lot of work on World Trade Organization and the various agreements that are done there. They have the side effects of destroying the smaller or the beginners in the development process. So, without caring for increasing the capability, so in that sense I do not want to bring in politics in it, but this tirade or this approach of Make in India, that is trying to produce things which we are importing. Now, today how many products from China are coming here and they are ruining our small industries. And you take for instance the cells, battery cells, they are all short lived, and small lamps, a number of toys. They have destroyed our toys and dolls industry of Mysore and Channapatna and all that. They have destroyed the silk industry of Karnataka to some extent. To give many examples, this so-called competition both in trade and production would not be conducive to better efficiency unless you take supporting measures to improve our capability. With poor infrastructure, with poor supply of energy and power, poor manpower structure, if you make them struggle for competition, they will be ruined. So, as I said earlier, the growth alone is not the end in itself. So, jobless growth, ruthless growth, futureless growth, and another thing I forgot to mention, voiceless growth. Voiceless growth is the fourth element. If you have growth wherein you do not allow the deprived sections, the women, the tribal people to have voice in the process of development.
Inclusive growth.
Inclusive growth, yeah. Voiceless growth, inclusive growth is one component of it, but you must allow for the participation of the deprived sections in the growth process, and then the rootless growth. So, competition would encourage all these negative forms of growth, ruthless competition, and competition which destroys the weaklings. So, coming back to your very specific question, which is very good, why do you take the example of the students in the early morning? You just take the examples of the office goers in Bombay. You stand near the Churchgate station, in the morning hours you find the rush of people coming in. They do not know where they are going, what they are doing, what for are they struggling, and the evening 5:30 if you stand there, you find the same stream coming, so on. So they do not care for the neighbor, they do not care for this one, they are jostling, and so all that is a craze for more and more. I know livelihood is important, but if you are contented with livelihood, I may be also victim to that craze for more and more, but a beginning has to be made. To give a personal example, my father, of course he belonged to much earlier generation, so to say, used to say in the early days, why do you need so many pants and bush shirts? Look at me, I have got only 2 or 3 dhotis and 2 or 3 kurtas. He was a great scholar, Sanskrit scholar, Indologist, archaeologist, and the message of his statement was that live simply. That is what Gandhiji said. I will not wear more clothes until the poorest of the poor in the country would afford some clothes to wear. And of course, such icons are very rare, very less today, but the solution is possible. Even in economics, there is a concept called 0% growth of consumption, as you know. So, some people have written thesis and books on it, that you can have growth, but still not allow consumption to grow in an unlimited or controlled manner. So, you can have consumption increase to the extent that will satisfy the basic needs of life. You see, otherwise, so the kama, dharma, artha, kama, moksha. Artha and kama, if they are pursued indiscriminately, that leads to the situation of this kind. See, if you feel that, I again quoted that earlier in Kautilya's Arthashastra, he says sukhasya moolam dharma, value system, ethics, morality, norm based behavior. Then dharmasya moolam arthaha. He did not say sukhasya moolam arthaha. Somebody who was composing this text thought that why is dharma, we want dharma niripeksha society, so he removed that word dharma and he made sukhasya moolam arthaha. So we are ruining ourselves by considering only that capital can give us the happiness. Then arthasya moolam rajyam. I have quoted it earlier, but I don't mind quoting it again. Rajyasya moolam indriya jaya. Those who are at the helm of affairs should have control on their temptations, their personal agenda. Indriya jayasya moolam vinaya. They must be modest. They should not be haughty. They must give appointment to their school teacher when he comes to meet them. I am just giving an example. They must have the modesty. Vinaya. Vinayasya moolam ruddhopaseva. You must have respect for the elders, scholarly people. Ruddhopasevayaha moolam vidyanam. You must have a proper scientific temper which is governed by faith in God. Vijnanena atmanam vindet. This is a holistic, integrated approach to human welfare. And now I know you will tell me that we are far away from it, but slowly we are realizing that is ruinous. You know, IT sector has increased the salaries of a number of people, but at the same time in Bangalore and where there are IT centers, it has increased the prices of the properties, and no middle income person can afford to have a house or a property. So on the one hand, the salaries of our youngsters have risen thousandfold. You know, a young graduate would expect now to get 1 lakh, 1.5 lakh per month, but at the same time the prices have gone up. So who is responsible for this misery of life? So it is not the growth, it is excessive craze for materialistic growth, unbalanced growth process. So I agree with you, the solution is difficult, but slow and all these crisis situations, we talked about the crisis in Greece, that is because of the excessive consumerism, and they have voted against austerity now. They said don't bring in austerity, we don't want, because they are used to this kind of excessive consumerist society. But the world will collapse. The global warming and more of these natural disasters, slowly we will realize a crisis will come when we will come back to a situation of contentment. So mam hi partha vyapasritya shipram bhavati dharma atma shashvat shantim nigacchati kaunteya pratijanihi name bhaktah pranasyati. He says, the person who has gone astray, but originally my bhakta, would soon come back to become the follower of the righteous path. Shipram bhavati dharmatma shashvat shantim nigacchati. When he comes back after repentance, he will realize the permanent peace of mind. Kaunteya. Whenever he has to say something with compassion, he addresses Arjuna as Kaunteya Partha. Pratijanihi name bhakta pranasyati. Make sure, I take a oath in front of you that my bhakta would never be betrayed by me. So bhakti is the most important element of our characteristic. Then mam hi partha vyapasritya epi shuh papayonayaha striyo vaishyas tatha shudraha tepi yanti param gatim kim punar brahmanah punyaha bhakta rajarshayas tatha anityam sukham lokam imam prapya bhajasva mam. So bhakti would liberate all persons of any birth, of any vintage, and those who are pursuing the path of knowledge. Brahmana means not any varna. Brahma anati iti brahmana. The one who pursues the path of knowing Brahma. Anapanagatou. Those who are engaged in the task of understanding the scriptures, propagating that knowledge, and making others also follow the adhyatmic path. They are called as Brahmanas. Brahmanaha punyaha bhakta rajarshayas tatha bhakta rajarshis. They will definitely get the permanent peace. Anityam asukham lokam imam prapya bhajasva mam. Manmana bhava madbhakto. The final sloka of this adhyaya is very beautiful. It says manmana bhava madbhaktaha madhyaji mam namaskuru mameva eshyasi yuktva atmanam matparayanaha. So you must keep your mind focused on me as the greatest entity, and madbhaktaha, you must show love and affection towards me. Madhyaji, do all the puja and the submission and the dedication to me. Mam namaskuru. Namaskuru has also the meaning of complete surrender. So why do you say namaskara in front of gurus and gods? You are surrendering. You are requesting for their grace to be put on you. The vibrations of their tapasyakti should be transmitted to you. That's why you say namaskara. When you do namaskara to the atheists, they say Narayana Narayana. You do Sastanga Namaskara, they say Narayana Narayana. So there he has written at one place, why do we say Narayana Narayana? He gives a very, very beautiful meaning to it. He says, when you worship, when you fall prostrate in front of us and do Namaskara, I don't want to take it. I transfer it to Narayana. I am only a post office. I say Narayana Narayana because immediately it goes, to the right address. So I don't want to be kept in the post box for some days and later on think of sending it. Immediately I make it go so that you get the reward and I am freed from my vanity or ego. Beautiful statement. So he says, Kim punar brahmanah punyaha bhakta rajarshayasthatha anityam asukham lokam imam prapya bhajasvamam manmana bhava madbhaktaha madhyaji mam namaskuru mameva eshyasi. You will definitely reach me. Yuktvaivam atmanam matparayanaha. Matparayanaha means para ayana. Ayana means asraya. Considering me as the final resort to you. So don't go to anybody else, you come to me. So that is the ultimate of bhakti. Bhagavan Mahatma Varnana Rupa Bhakti Yoga Yogo Nama Adhyayaha. Rajagujha Yogo Nama Adhyayaha. It's a very Rajavidya Rajagujha. It is, he has given so much importance to bhakti because he knew that in Kali Yuga people, hypocrites, they will not show love for each other, respect for each other. So he said bhakti is the only solution. That is why Vedavyasa, after composing several Puranas, at the end he composed Bhagavata Purana. Bhagavata is supposed to be really Bhakti Pradhana. Number of stories of the ancient period were compiled to show ultimately that bhakti is the most important modality for getting your rapport with Paramatma. Unless we keep rapport with Paramatma, our life will not be having the fusion of materialism and spiritualism. And as we said in the beginning, our life should not be only materialism and should not be only spiritualism. It has to be properly integrated. In our materialistic pursuit, bring in spiritualism, and in your spiritualistic pursuit, keep the materialism to the barest minimum, so that you have the proper blend of the two. That is the message of the philosophy of life which Bhagavad Gita gives. So far we have seen that how profound are the thoughts and the messages of Bhagavad Gita, and the more we understand it in the proper perspective, our respect for Bhagavad Gita goes up, and we will be able to induce to study it, not just recite it, study its meaning, and more than that, we should be induced to try to implement them in our everyday life. And it, yes, practice the things, and it will reduce our stress. We will make us very composed, contented. Again, that sloka, prasade sarva dukkhanam hanirasyopajayate prasanna chetaso hyasho buddhi paryavatishthati, is the very potent message of Bhagavad Gita for our strife-ridden life.